I can't wait to tell you guys about my epiphany last night. It was literally a sign from God, and I think I'm finally have peace with the Jews. And to set this up, I really need you guys to understand why I've been so obsessed with decoding deception. I've always been intrigued by conspiracy theories, moon stuff, what's really going on here. But I've been on an extra level lately. And now that, one good thing that came from my crying, which is never good, the other night, was you guys saw the pain I had for that friend. Okay, Eric Nimmer, who is, I thought, my best friend in my opener, told me he was a Marine and had cancer to manipulate my emotions around my friend who was a Marine with PTSD who died and had cancer. And so because of that, I gave him thousands of dollars for his cancer treatment. I trusted him with everything when he didn't earn it. I was very tricked. And I'm usually a good judge of character, but when I have a big weak spot and someone can take advantage of that, I can be so naive. And it didn't occur to me that anyone would ever lie about being a cancer survivor or a vet with PTSD to get stage time or power or attention or comedy. And I'm not a victim, so I didn't wallow in that. I stayed strong. I was like, that happens. I tried to be a good role model. That hurt, man. And it was irresponsible. Now that I'm a dad, I'm giving this guy thousands of dollars for his cancer treatment. I might as well be giving it to a Nigerian prince. I have kids. I can't allow myself to be tricked like that. Being naive and trusting isn't a virtue. It's it can be, once you realize you're capable of being tricked on that level, where half my specials, I'm like, one more time for Eric Nimmer. One of my best friends. He survived war. I love that. I watch that now and I'm like, you're so stupid. And some kind people are like, yeah, but you're trusting. You see the good in people. I'm like, that money could have went to my kids, not a scam artist. And if that happens again, I'm absolutely culpable. Jordan Peterson tricked me because he used pronouns properly. I have a blind spot with people because I can't imagine wanting material possessions or power, and you're willing to degrade yourself on that level to do that. I can imagine really horny people being like, yeah, I know, but I just love sex. I'd be like, I've been there, man. I've never had any desire to do something. I've never had a desire to do something horrible to get sex either, but at least I understand the appetite. I have such a blind spot with that trusting stuff. So that's one reason why I've been like, okay, I have to learn about deception. I have to be better at this. I have to be able to spot when someone's lying, and I'm not good at this. And the Jews are really easy to look at because their culture is very secretive. I'll be as nice as I can with this stuff because there's a lot of good Jews out there. And my epiphany actually is part of this. I think I really came to some helpful conclusions. But just, the fact they read backwards in a nonsense language and they, if you know what a Sukkot tent is, they're like, oh, one of our secrets? I'm like, why do you guys like secrets so much? Why is everything about oh, this is the extra special book and Zohar? I'm like, just tell us, And most of them are just normal neurotic. I used to find George Costanza funny back in the day. I'm like, oh, George, you're your own worst enemy. And then once you see these big plots by these power guys like the New York Times and all this, then you see George Costanza and it's like, oh, I'm so self-hating. I'm like, that doesn't mean you get to teach my kids sodomy, George, and send them to war. And so I have to deal with my own paranoia with that. It's kind of like after black people watch Get Out, they think white people really want to hypnotize them and put them in a dark place. And although people have been saying this for a while, that it's not all Jews, that it's a small group of Jews, and I've dismissed them, stop. That sounds like an excuse. I have come to that conclusion, but I had to come to it honestly. It couldn't just be an escape. It couldn't be here's the weird thing. The Jews that are so into being Jewish are usually the biggest frauds. That's another way that people like me are tricked. Because a lot of Jews are just as tricked by the Rothschilds and all these media people. Like, they're just as confused. They just have a different hologram world of lies. There's a small group of people that run all of the lie machines, and they are Jewish. But I'll tell you the epiphany from God. And there's no way this is a coincidence. This was directly from God saying, just in a humorous way, showing me the error of my ways. I've never wanted to go down a 9/11 truth path because it doesn't feel right to me. You know, I like things hiding in plain sight. Like Michael Jackson was rubbing his penis in front of the world and sleeping with children and no one said anything. Those are the things I go for. Where he's like, he's literally rubbing himself and people are so hypnotized that they don't see it. Those are the things that I'm passionate about. I'm like, I will wake people up to that. Or like, you know, Jackson's a whole mess though. Like there's so much weird tension, chaos. I don't even know what people are extracting from that because he's literally like committing a sex crime in front of millions of children and people are like, oh, so stylish. And he sleeps with the children and he's a monster. He has a high voice. Those 9/11, I can't possibly decode. That will only cause me stress. It will only make me pass misinformation. I have friends that have died from health problems, from stress, who thought it was Dick Cheney and Bush, and they needed the world to know. I have friends that have died, or just at least gotten real fat, and they're close to death with like diabetes and stuff from stress. That know it was Mossad. Okay, I know Michael Jackson rubbed his penis in front of the world and slept with children. I know that 9/11 isn't what they say it is. There is no way I can figure it out. Like a magic trick within a magic trick it's a Rubik's Cube. I guarantee was invented by a high level Jew. A Rubik's Cube. It's like it's almost like they want your stress. But you know, I was underslept. Midnight run with George. You know, I've conquered the lust stuff to the point where I can be exhausted and hungover, and I don't even have any urge to watch pornography. It's deep conspiracy videos. So I'm listening to this very intelligent, and I can tell he's an honest guy, and he's connected so many dots with Israel, with 9/11. And I'm listening, and I'm scared and fascinated, and I think I'm getting to the bottom of something. And this is when I truly believe God intervened. And God doesn't speak to me like, Owen, you must stop whacking off. It's these little things that happen in life that is order. It's just a little thing just nudging you along where God's like, hey, I'm still rooting for you, man. You're still in the covenant, you know, but, you know, come on. And I don't get why people are scared of the devil. I'm scared of God. You know, like, here's the funniest part. I thought that, like, these demonic forces were going to come kill me or something because I'm speaking the truth and stuff. This is the funniest part. They've already taken so much from me, I just didn't care because I didn't value it. They killed my name. My reputation in all those circles that I built up is gone. I'm persona non grata. I don't care. So I didn't see that as retribution. They killed my ability to make excess money. I don't care. I have enough and I don't love money. So I'm always like, so when's the shoe going to drop? They just took all the nonsense. And if you're morally corrupt, that hurts really bad. And it didn't hurt at all. I'm scared of losing the life God provides for me. Like, okay, I really think that living the way I live is okay. My new hobby is gardening, dude. Gardening. Like, this is what I do passionately now. Like, let me show you some images. Like, now I'm working on, like, what type of mulch versus, like, tree mix. You know, I'm trying to get different beds. Like, look at that. I'm, like, so into growing things and seeing order and, like, fencing and how things fit. And so, in my mind, I'm like, I pray that God allows me to keep having what he's given me, because that's what I value so much. Like when my boys like, Dad, run fast, and we're just having a blast. That's what I'm scared of. I'm like, please God, I will stay in Logos. I will speak truth to my absolute ability. Please don't take this beautiful life you've given me. So when people are scared of the devil, they're like, oh, the devil's going to come for you. It's like, God is all of it. The devil's a trick. The devil is like the thing trying to test you to see if you're weak and you'll self-destruct. That doesn't scare me. Because all the devil can really take from me is that which has no meaning. And so if you hurt from that, you're already a little off. God is this. And so I'm terrified of God. And I don't understand how people aren't terrified of God. Like, usual suspects, the greatest trick the devil ever pulled was convincing the world he didn't exist. No, the greatest trick high-level Jews ever did was convincing the world Jesus didn't exist. The devil's a trick. That's why I've never liked magicians. This isn't just about Jews. This is the epiphany, and I'll get to it. I hate deception. I've never liked magicians. Even before the Nimmer thing, when I realized I had to figure out deception better, when someone like pulls something out of their ear, like a quarter, I'm like, you're lying though. And I've seen like that Chris Angel and stuff, and everyone's excited. I'm like, why are people paying money to be lied to? That's why I'm obsessed with comedy. It's like, say a crafted and exaggerated and taboo version of absolute reality and watch them enjoy it, right? That's the opposite of magic. Magic is like, I'll show you something that isn't real and you won't know why you're tricked, and then you'll doubt everything. I'm like, this is hell. And so it's not Jews. Jews are just, there's some real high, okay, I'll tell you the sign from God. So I'm listening to this 9/11 guy. And one of the things that I can't possibly verify, and this is why I don't go down these roads, is that there were like 4,000 Israelis that were alerted to not go into the towers, and so only 3 died. And he was like, this is verifiable, this print. I have no idea. That's all the stuff that it's not me being scared. I'm not like, oh, bro, you won't face the truth. I objectively cannot get to the bottom of any of that, because it's like, according to who? According to who? According to who? Like, at this point in those type of things, there's no objective reality. And I totally respect people that have connected the dots. There's some shady stuff with like who owns the buildings and all that. I can't tell you guys. I can tell you Michael Jackson rubs his penis in front of the world and no one saw it because of the devil. That's something I know. I know we didn't go to the moon. I can prove it with NASA. I can't prove it, but this is the sign for God. So only 3 Israelis died, right? And just for no reason, he just goes, and yeah, one was a janitor. Okay, for those of you that don't know, I've been spending the last year trying to find a Jewish janitor. So I offer to pay people money. I'm like, anyone you know that is Jewish and a janitor. So one person was like, oh, well, he owns a janitor company. I'm like, no, like just a paycheck to paycheck janitor. Find me a Jewish janitor. And it became a theme. So I'm listening to this 9/11 thing, and for no reason, he just goes, the only Israeli to die was a janitor. And for 1 second, I go, they're trying to kill Jewish janitors. My mind was open for a second to the possibility that someone's trying to kill Jewish janitors, and that's when I felt God's humor. And I said, message received. That was God being like, listen, I'm rooting for you, but we're all a little sick of the Jew stuff. If you can believe for a second that they're trying to kill Jewish janitors, you have to know that that's a bad road for you. And I smiled because it felt good. It felt like God gets it, but he also knows that I can't possibly get to the bottom of that. And that allowed me to see more stuff. And this is another thing that allowed me to see more with watching some of these like deep dives. It's weird. It's like the guy speaking, very smart, Christopher something, honorable, smart, makes a great case. But that wasn't the part that changed my opinion about stuff. There was Jews in the crowd, and his argument was so profoundly compelling. And they spoke with like shame and horror. And that broke a spell in me that like all these Jews are like secretly really excited about all our pain. I genuinely felt it, that these Jews were like, but it can't be. Like, do people think that we're... And it wasn't the tricky wizard stuff. I'm like, these guys are horrified by that possibility. And then my mind kept going with like, all right, so you have these small groups of people that do happen to be Jews that profit from chaos and war. And so because of that, they have to sell a lie, and then they have to create an entire industry to avoid the lie. And my grandfather was a lead miner, right? So I know how profitable and how much pain goes into the business of war. He would bring lead out of the ground so that people could shoot each other with him for profit. You know, the coldness of the war industry is profound to the point where I think there's another level after those guys, because they're not having a good time. They're not out there seeking, you know, like a lot of the hits I get are from like gamma male social media people. You know, they're like, oh my God, I hate what you say, I'm going to take you down. These high level guys, they operate with these little margins of movement that make them trillions, and they're so cold, and they don't care what you say, what you do. It's, can they sell lead? And then can they sell a lie? So America has this whole hologram, this whole deception laid out with the media that you can prove. Want to know who else has one? Israel. They've been laid out a bunch of stuff too, so they stay in line, and they still have their carrots and sticks and all that. And so it dawned on me that like it really isn't verbally fair for me to say Jews. It's funny, and I'll still do it in joke format. But the majority of Jews are also cannon fodder for these psychopaths. It's like they're selling them that they're constantly victims, that they were made into lampshades. And there's a lot of Jews that have been told that so many times that they're constantly confused. They feel like us, where it's like, man, these people hate us. We have to be real sneaky and weird. And then we feel like, why are you being so sneaky and weird? No one made you guys into lampshades. A Jewish lamp wouldn't even work. If people really hated Jews, why would they make you into soap? If people hated you, do you think that they would think that you would clean them? It's so dumb. But see, that's the thing. That's how they get you. That's how these dark conspiracies get you. Is they're so obviously dumb but also horrifying that the confusion is what they soak up. And so you have all these Jews in a perpetual state of like people want to wipe us off the map. And then these way top level psychopaths keep interchanging Israel and Jew so that they can just, who does that fuck over the most? Jews. Imagine just like an American Jew that just keeps being like 1 minute you're Israeli, the next minute you're a Jew, based on the whims of psychopaths that profit in the billions from human death. And so that freed me, because I have to own up to the fact that I'm so against being a victim that I haven't acknowledged how much the Nimmer thing hurt. And maybe I have been like going a little hard at like, how do I figure out who's going to trick me? And Jews, I mean, they are very sneaky and secretive. It's cultural. And any Jew that's offended by that is not real. They're the liars. Like Ben Shapiro is not really Jewish. He's just a psychopath. Like the Sukkot tent. Like when you know one of their nonsense rituals, like the blowing of the horn or like the payas or like when you have a mezuzah on your door, they look at you like, oh, you know one of the secrets. It's literally like Dungeons and Dragons. And that way of acting makes people not trust you. And then the fact that the media is run by Jews, but it's like 4 of them, and it's to cover a crime in the trillions. So, I mean, I'm a fair person. If I went to Iraq and people looked at me like I killed their children with drones, I'd be like, I didn't. I'm just trying to figure out the deceptions just like you guys. And so I'm not going to inflict that world on Jews that I know are not profiting from this nonsense. They have a sneaky vibe. But God gave me a sign that I was going down destructive rabbit holes. And the fact that I thought it was possible that Jewish janitors were being killed was very humbling. And yeah, it just so happens that some of the worst human beings that have ever lived are alive right now, and they're Jewish. But they also use their own as cannon fodder, and I really appreciate God for filling that in for me. I am not capable of getting to the bottom of some of the biggest deceptions ever made. You know, I got tricked by Eric Nimmer. And half my friends, like I was just texting with Sabo. Sabo was in the Marines. He was like, I knew that fucker wasn't a captain in the Marines. There's a culture. I'm like, thanks for the heads up, Sabo. How about you stop graffitiing for 1 minute and tell me that my friend's a liar so I don't embarrass myself for literally years and years?